that, I'm just here to really explain to you what this whole law means now. And this is where, especially for the dreamers, I hope this is more insightful and a lot more fun. So yes, a good question is, has Mito chose some of your tattoos? Yes, he has. Especially this one. And especially certain ones on my back and stuff. But I think for the most part, it wouldn't be a moment where I wake up and, oh, like I have a tattoo, I wonder who did that. No, it's not like that. It's more like, those are the extremities. So I'm talking about sometimes, if I relate my lows to Mito, you have a version of you that's 100% Mito, right? But imagine, what if you only had 10% of his essence? You still would feel what he was feeling, but you still associate that with something like, oh, I'm depressed, or I'm a little bit sad, or today I feel a little bit spiteful. But if you're 100% of, imagine you took years and years of trauma and years of bad experiences, all the things you felt during those past experiences that you've bottled up or you've comparted deeply into your brain, and you personified that as a character. What would that look like? So I always thought Mito, and it's not a bad thing, because to a lot of people, it's kind of like your guardian. Hence, which is why I bring up the idea of trauma, because people don't know how to process trauma at their given moment in time. It would have to be something big enough for you to not want to process it, but still want to go on with your daily life. So you tend to bury it under the bushes, and you don't even know you bury it, because it's just that much of a shock to you. Anyway, let me bring you to the law now, because, enough of this. This is a lot of where the inspiration has driven from, okay? So let me just tell you about it. So who is Mito? Mito, again, sorry I keep coming back to this, but let me really just fight for this. Mito is the character that represents my manic lows. And the thing about your manic lows is it's not all that, you don't feel anything. Like, it's nothing. You have, I can't describe it. It's not sadness. It's not like, you don't feel you feel just empty. Like, if empty was a feeling, could you feel it? Yeah. It's really just flatline. So nor do you have the necessary will to do anything, but you see everything in black and white. And that's why Mito's first EP, the first album, does everyone remember the artwork for the album? It's a smashed glass, right? It's a smashed mirror into different fragments. So that symbolized already that, so if you look into the mirror, right? I think a good thing for people to understand what DID is when you look into the mirror, you just see one version of yourself. A lot of the times for people that have DID, they see different versions, like a broken mirror, different fragments. You're still you. You're still looking at a version of you, but you're looking at a multiple split of versions of you. Does that make sense? So, Mito is the character that I have created based on real life experiences, real life moments. And he has become the epitome of everything that just knows how to deal with shit. And he's portrayed in such a dark light because that is what he's born from. Okay, so now who is Mr. Insanity? Some say Mr. Insanity is Ian himself, which makes a lot of sense because Ian is still Christian Ian, well, same person. I am still me, but when I go manically high, I do get to a point when I go extremely at a very dangerously level high that I sometimes when I come back and I think I didn't black out, but I don't know how I was that same person, because he just almost goes too crazy. Now, Mr. Insanity, I think, and I'm just going to leave this out there. Some people might even say Miss Insanity is a lot more dangerous than Mito. How is Insanity a lot more dangerous? Mito is the protector, the guardian of my consciousness. But Insanity is, I think, the stirrer, the very character that has a lot of power over bringing a lot of stimulus into things. And who has to deal with that shit? Well, you guessed it. So metaphorically, that's kind of the whole plot of the music video. Now, so if you watch So I Dance, okay, no, before I get into that, sorry. So what is the other side then? What is this? Welcome to the other side. What is the other side right there? Sorry, it's terrible. It's flipped handwriting. So what is the other side then? So the other side is an existing universe inside the consciousness of the mind. And you can only get there through dreaming. Ironic that we are called Dream Perfect Regime, but no. I'll give you a good example, for example. What the hell does that even mean? So ever since I was a kid, I've always learned how to lucid dream. And I didn't know I was lucid dreaming. That lucid dreaming means you're completely aware that you're dreaming and you have full control over what's happening around in you, in your dream, in the environment. So if you want to fly, you can fly, and yada, yada, yada. But I think ever since I was a kid, I had so much fun doing that I thought I generated. So for me personally, I got a lot more creative with that way. It was almost like my creative library bank that I've always kept. And the crazy thing about my dreams was it had continuity. So I still remember a lot of the worlds that I visited in these dreams, and a lot of these places that I walked through, and the characters that I played in my dreams. And granted, a lot of the times the dreams could have been influenced by a lot of the things that I grew up watching and looking at. But I've always realized that in my dreams, there were a lot of doors. And every time I would go lucid dreaming, I sometimes would unlock, or I would sometimes go through a door. And this is where it gets crazy, because I would go through the doors so many times, and I would end up at so many weird, and sometimes going through the wrong door would turn into a nightmare, for example. And I think through that, I've realized when I come out of these dreams, I had these blackouts. So think of it like this: the longer you stay inside your lucid dreams, the longer you lucid, and the longer you tend to lose a grip of your reality, that's when you hit your manic episodes, I think that's when you really start finding it very hard to associate what's real and what's not. So that's where it gets a little dangerous. But trust me, I've had my fair share. And sometimes I'll deliberately try to sleep more just to be able to experience or see what was beyond certain mountains. The green asteroid, for example, was a huge part of my dream when I was little. Peanut Butter and Tears was the. So I'll give you a context then. So Peanut Butter and Tears, for those that haven't seen it. By the way, we're nearly at 4 million views, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go, dreamers. Peanut Butter and Tears is a glimpse into a lot of these moments where it first started. So Peanut Butter and Tears is the music video is a representation of me when I was a kid, and I've wandered through, and that's when I started wandering through these doors. And that's kind of the idea, the visual imagery behind that music video. So what you see in the timeline in terms of this context was Peanut Butter and Tears is kind of like the very early stages of insanity before he turned into Mr. Insanity. So again, recapping this, Ian, you see the very first Ian travel through these doors in Peanut Butter and Tears. Hence, you see the young youthfulness, but he's not crazy yet. He's not the Mr. Insanity that we all know him to be. Well, I'm not sure how much you know about him, but for me anyway. So that's why, you know, he still has relatively black hair, and it's just kind of like tapping back into that idea of where it really all started. And I decided to really bring up this concept because it was as real as day to me, you know. Hello. Okay, so now we get to the general storyline of what Mr. Insanity is. Dear Insanity, this new EP that's about to drop, pretty soon. If you know the dates, put it down. So this Insanity is about the very origins of how insanity became insanity. So along the way, Ian travels to the other side being the consciousness universe that exists in your consciousness that you could only tap into through your dreams. And the very first door he walks into, he gets a glimpse of this world that he had no idea that existed, right? Now bear with me now. So in this moment, he goes down this crazy path of trying to understand where he's at until he realizes he can't leave, or he doesn't know how to get back out. And I think that's kind of when he realizes he's almost doomed, because the longer he stays in this universe, the longer he, I guess, seamlessly ceases to exist on the external world. But I mean, I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm not gonna tell you what happens. We've already mapped this out. But if I spoil it now, I think it's just it's not gonna be the point. But anyway, so this is the very first origins of him traveling to the other side, and in the other side are towns and things that are made of mythical, fantasy, mythology, any type of things that you would imagine in a dream and a nightmare to exist. And funny enough, who dwells there? Who dwells in the very consciousness of my universe, of my mind? It's Mido. So some might say Mido is the guardian angel, right? The guardian angel or the fallen angel. And that we will find out later in the storyline. But I mean, for those who know, I mean, they know already. But anyway, so in So I Danced, you see Mr. Insanity come across a city called Emerald City, and he is with the Green. By the way, is a character that we are further developing. It's a very core character, I would like to say, but that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to really tell you what that character is based on. So now you have the versions of Mr. Insanity and Mido in this timeline. Mind you, Mido 2 and Mido 1, Mido 2, Mido 2's movie, if you guys seen Mido 2, the movie, that's in the most present timeline. That's when Insanity became his full extreme insanity self, and Mido is on the clock to really stop him. So that is the future Insanity, before he really loses his mind. And if you see glimpses of how Insanity looks in the future, he's completely blind, because he has now fallen to the other side, and he's completely succumbed to his insane powers, and almost to the point where he no longer can see. because the universe he believes is to be on him. And that's why when he takes his jacket off, you see lights and all these sparkles and things. So he's comprised of all these characters. And where does Mida 1 fit now? Like, so beautiful Mida and everything. So he creates versions of himself to by harnessing the power of the other side. Because again, this is why I say the manic highs are extremely dangerous, because you don't know when to stop. Some things are better left unturned, but you always have somebody to clean up your job for that. Okay, so I recommend you guys watch that. That's kind of the very present Mr. Insanity that you see in the Mida movie. Now we go back to this version. So we're here at Dear Insanity, the very moment where Ian first makes his trip to the other side. And he turns into, and he finds a way to somehow not be able to get out. And then the longer he dwells and the longer he goes deeper into his consciousness, the more things he unravels about himself and about things that he's forgotten about. But those all in all can be harmful, or it could be straight up just wackadoodle, like it just makes you go crazy. So Emerald City was a kind of reference to obviously the Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz was one of the films that I've absolutely freaking was inspired by ever since I was a kid. And I remember during one of my dreams I did go to the Emerald City. However, it's not as you depict it in the in the movie itself. It's just how I kind of imagined it to be when I revisited that place. So Emerald City really does exist within my thing, because it was a direct relation to the experiences that I had when I was younger. So everything you see, right, everything you see on screen is as real as day to me. I haven't created anything in a metaphoric sense to anything else other than the experiences that I've had. So for example, right, like the whole idea of insanity is he's a clown. He is literally a clown. And you know, some might say it's ironic because it might be like a direct reference to my older idol group called C Clown. But no, Insanity, I've always considered myself the class clown when I was a kid. And as clowny as you can get, clowns tend to just not like forget about a lot of things, and they just they want to make you laugh, right? They want to bring a lot of joy and happiness into your life. So they go to the extremities of even doing crazy and fatal stunts, in my mind at least anyway. When I see the circuses and stuff like that, they do a lot of crazy shit that want to give you the idea that they're entertaining you, or trying to please you to the utmost. But what if Insanity gets a little, he bites too much, then he bites too much to handle, too much that he can chew, bites off too much then he can chew, something like, okay, you know what I mean. Fuck, I can't remember that. Anyway, so what happens if he does that? Then you see the insanity taking place. His sanity is being sapped away, and you end up with a version where it's a lot more scary and a lot more intense than Mido. Mind you, I can't snap into Mido. I don't know how to. I don't know how to change my identity all of a sudden and all of a sudden click into Mido. I don't know how that works. I've never done that before. For me, what happens is I go to a very manic high state. Once I get to a very manic or high state, and it doesn't always happen, and something triggers me in that state, insanity changes to Mido. And it's funny because that's the only way that you can turn into Mido. It's kind of like, I can kind of tell you, it feels like something big is about to happen. You get like a sense. You know, for example, I was about to board a plane the other day, and I just felt something like stirring inside me. I felt something extremely bad was going to happen, and it's not like some type of intuition, premonition type of shit. It's just something like, oh, it feels like there's going to be an earthquake. Oh, it feels like something is stirring up inside you, and you don't know what it is. But usually you tend to get that feeling when you're in your extreme highs, and you're not thinking straight, and your words are jumbled, and you know you lose a whole sense and track of time and context of place. And it's only then that there's a transitional period where insanity turns into Maito. And the whole idea is so then when that happens and I come out of Maito, for example, it's as if I'm now looking at the chaos that has been unfolded, has been left out right in front of me, and I have to now process that. It's kind of like an anxiety attack. However, it's some people tend to get an anxiety attack. The way I see it is I black out. I don't know. I mean, maybe that could be better or worse. I don't know. So it's you know, I'll put that out there. This is just the idea, just real personal experiences of what I go through. You know, fuck it, I'll just put it out there. So that's kind of what it really entails, the whole idea and this storyline concept. So where are we now? So okay, Mr. Insanity. He's now on the run. He's found a psychic or a friend, and he has to now pass through the door, right? He realizes the mayor, or the person that's running the town, goes by the name of Maito. So we know that we're in the other side. If you look, by the way, go check out So I Dance, guys. Let's get it to a meal. Let's get it to a meal, because there's so many people that worked way too hard for this, and it would mean the world for us. So anyway, we're going back to the So I Dance. So we just see this heist being planned and a robbery of some type of metal case where Insanity and his friend, we call him the Green, but it could be anything. And there's a very special idea of why it's called the Green. But again, I'm not going to dive into too much. If I do, my team will kill me. But everything is intentional. Everything is intentional. Wasn't Maito an angel? It's a good question. So why is Maito, you gotta ask yourself this, why is Maito depicted as an angel? And if he is, why is he depicting himself as a fallen angel? And is that, or is somebody lying? Scaredy Cat is a how the hell am I asking? So again, now that you know all of this, if you revisit all of my music videos, you'll understand. And a lot of times why people might, a lot of times I hear, oh, you're such a good actor or something and stuff. But a lot of times people don't realize I'm not acting, and it's something that I can't. If I'm not Maito, for example, for certain moments, I like to think I time a lot of these moments where I start switching. And when I do switch, it might not be 70 or 80%. There'll be a thing that I do where I don't recommend, but there's like certain rituals that I do where I look in the mirror, and I usually do this before I go on stage, because I had a hard time a long time ago being myself on stage. And I know that sounds so like contradicting to what I'm trying to do along this life, but I'm trying to get people to understand that even with all of this, if I was to be completely real with you guys, there are certain protocols that I have to also take in order for me to even go out on certain stages or certain events, or sometimes I'll just come out of one of my dips and I have to be going in an interview. But I'm only just starting to learn to get comfortable in my own skin. And the reason is because I know I'm going to switch again. Not because I don't have anything to love about myself. It's because I know that I'm not going to be me or when I switch again. And I know it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Like there's no way of not switching. So for me, it's like learning to coexist with that. You might think, oh, it saps so much out of you. I'll tell you one of the biggest things that happen is when I come out from a switch, it feels like I've ran a marathon. Like it feels like I've been running for about 7 or 8 days. So my mind is completely scattered. My body's completely drained because your brain is constantly on overdrive. And that's kind of really the end result of what I come out to. So it takes me a few days, more than before, because I'm getting older now, to come back to my original senses. Does that make sense, ladies and gentlemen? It takes a lot more for me to come back to myself. But when I do, I stop now and I think, what is the last thing I remember? And sometimes it'll be from a week ago. And fortunately enough for me, I have enough good people around me to support me switching. And I suggest to everyone that might have a friend, or if you are going through this, you need very supportive people. If not two, one is enough, I think. Enough for them to care about or understand, or at least put up with a lot of the things that you might switch into. And it's completely fine. I'm just telling you, it's completely fine. So again, I keep going back to this, but again, now we're here at the other side. Dear Insanity is, again, Ian making a full trip to the other side, a universe that exists in the consciousness, in the dreamlike state of the mind. But technically, in all sense, it's the consciousness. So whatever happens there, whatever things you've kept unlocked and comparted away is going to be there. But behind which door, I do not know. And behind what door, like which door is what, we do not know. Right? But however, he does discover an entity called Mito. But the only difference with this entity is it looks somewhat like him. It looks somewhat like him. And the more and more we develop the story, the more and more they realize they have things either in common, or they start undiscovering really dark truths about one another. And again, it's a crazy story. I'll give you this. It's a freaking crazy story. I can't believe we're just here at So White Dance. Me and my team, we've developed this story based on obviously personal experiences, but we developed this whole story and franchise to about another 10 years, to be completely honest. And you're just now beginning to see the cusp of the characters of Insanity and how he turns into insanity. So the more we develop the story, the more you see him go crazy and crazy and crazier. And I'll tell you this now, if you get scared, then yes, that is exactly what Insanity feels like. He is quirky, fun, and extreme, but one wrong, essence of Mito, one wrong taste of something that's spoiled can turn that insane, quirky, and funny, screw it type of character into, alright, screw it. Like just burn the world type of, or, seize the world. I think that would be a more suitable terminology in this case. But it's a very interesting thing, because conceptually, it's like a superhero to villain type of concept. But in a more realistic sense, it's really based on someone's consciousness that is developing right before your eyes, you're witnessing somebody's trauma. I know that sounds extreme, but hear me out now. The reason why I am extremely just full forward into this is because I know it will give so many people a lot more insight onto whether you have or you don't have this disorder. You'll get enough insight into what these characters feel and look like to one person and such. And if anyone could relate to certain developments of a certain characteristics for certain characters, it might give you a good understanding of like what it really goes through. So I watched a reaction video, by the way. Oh, by the way, I love the reaction videos. You should absolutely keep throwing them out there. Thank you. You should absolutely keep them throwing out there. But I watched this reaction video where this person stated that what they're seeing right now, if Maida was to destroy insanity, I think she said, it would seem a little too scary because she knows that it's exactly what's happening in my mind right now. So what you experience and what you see is the exact reflection, and it's kind of like a time capsule of what I already have or am going through, but for the most part it's already have going through. Or so yeah, everything that I haven't been through I can't put out there. Just disclaimer, everything that I haven't been through, if I haven't reached a state of enlightenment of dealing or being able to understand my highs and lows and learn how to bring them together, for the most part I'm at a point where they're at war. It really does feel like that. It feels like I'm at war. Like if I'm Maida would say shit about insanity, and if insanity comes out, he would say shit about Maida. So it's like vice versa. But we're at that point where I haven't even learned how to coexist with them, you know? So for me to even put that out there, it would be hypocritical because I haven't even learned to do that. So everything that you see has already been unfolded or am going to unfold in future context. Does that make a lot of sense? Side question, did you have breakfast? I've had my sparkling lime water for the last, yes. Smash, next question. All right. What are you smashing? Smash, what do you like to smash? I've played Smash Bros before. I'm very shitty at it. I suck at Smash Brothers. I don't know how people can control that. It's just it's insanity. So anyway, what was I gonna say anyway? Okay, yeah. So we're at that point, and I'll never show anyone things that I haven't been through myself. It would all be a reflection of things that I go through and things that are hopefully going to turn out for. Any advice on how to keep moving forward? Don't look too far ahead. I've always tend to think when you look too far, you tend to feel a lot more, scared in moving forward because it just feels like the journey is too far ahead. Look down, look around you, look at the things that you're grateful for. I know it's, this is subjective too, but there's always you can always be grateful for something. It might be, some people have different things to be grateful for, but you can always find something to be grateful for. And I've always found that the more you really focus your mind on thinking, thank God today I can wake up to this and that and this and this. There's always something to be grateful for. Focusing your mind on that would always be number one, I think. Or artist's ritual like. I think for everyone, obviously, it's all different. For me, I have different things, different set of rituals. For me, boundaries, I didn't realize, but my friend has been telling me this forever, but shout out to you, Carol, but I didn't realize how important boundaries were for me. So I know boundaries can be extremely important for some people, and for others, like they have a certain, I guess the borders are all different. So meaning someone's boundary can be here, someone's can be over there. So some people, for me, especially for me, I didn't realize how sensitive I get to I mean, it makes sense because obviously if I switch and if I'm like feeling these crazy manic highs and lows, I think I'll value a lot of like space. So I'll give you one good example. If I change to Mito, if I was to change to Mito right now, I would have a complete different demeanor and my boundaries would be different. So as an artist that has DID, I have to learn to understand where my boundaries are. I think that's the first thing. Any artist should understand where their boundaries are. And the reason why I say this is we all have different icks, right? Being an artist, you're prone to be sensitive. Number one, you have to be sensitive because if you're not sensitive, then you have, you're not really harnessing anything that you're feeling when you see something, when you see the sunrise for the 50th time, or I mean, you know, when you see the northern lights and, you know, you're compelled to feel something, and with that feeling, you retract it and you turn it into an expression. So being sensitive to that is completely fine. Now, as sensitive as an artist can be, it also means that you might have a lot of icks or things that you need to do in order for you to get creative, in order for you to be sensitive, right? So for me, it's understanding those icks and it's understanding where you have to draw the line for yourself even. Because I feel like if you learn to not really give a shit about it, then your creative process will burn out eventually, and you'll have to find new ways to input, and you have to find new ways to develop and find certain inspiration. Another advice I'll give you is you don't have to, if you never go out, right? If you never go out and do something new, and this is just personal advice, ladies and gentlemen, if you never go out and do something different, and doesn't have to be, you don't have to climb Mount Everest. I'm talking about just going down a different street or doing something different. You know, watching something different. I don't know. If you never do anything different, you won't have if you don't read a new book or if you don't do certain new activities, you won't have the capacity to fill in your brain and your mind with new sources of inspiration. Like how do you know you're not into rollerblading, roller skating? How do you know you're not into surfing? Like how do you know you're not into certain things? How do you know you're not into Picasso? How do you know you're not into jazz? Put yourself out there. I know I'm introverted. I'm extremely introverted. So easier said than done. But if you don't experience different outlets, then you're going to be filling your mind with the same shit over and over and over again. And as an artist, if you're going from home to studio, home to studio, home to studio, and there's nothing in between, then you're just going to be stuck on the computer, trying to pick at whatever's left inside here to make something. And it would be a shame for you to feel like you're forcing yourself to do it. Remember, forcing yourself to do it is, I think, a compartment that you have to learn as any artist, because if you're working with any clients, there's never going to be a moment in time where you're just completely going to be doing whatever you want. And yeah, I mean, if you want to live like that, it's fine. But if you're going into this as a profession, then yes, you might as well learn how to stick it through, you know. So anyway, again, put yourself out there, do whatever you want. Granted, just don't do anything like fucked up. Just do anything you want that you've always wanted to do, minus the fucked up part. So do anything that you believe is, I want to give it a shot at that. If your friend calls you the next day and is like, oh, hey, do you want to go fishing? Be like, yeah, I guess why not? I mean, I don't really do that. Just like, all right, let's go out and fish, you know? So like things like that, I don't think people really understand, but they mount up to your experiences. And people with experiences, good or not, you learn how to associate that with your art. I mean, that's really where expression comes from, right? It really does start by that. That's what I'm doing ultimately. I mean, granted, it is based on personal I guess, analysis of what I really am going through with certain disorders. However, I'm not scared to put that into the light, because I know deep down I'm not deeming this as a complete negative notion. I'm not putting this in a negative light. I'm trying to exceed the amount of good that this has, or this could potentially have. Sorry, I'll say potentially have, in giving a lot of insight to people that may feel discomfort with certain disorders, or may not have the voice to really be just, I'm good to be who I am. I'm actually really happy to be who I am. Because it could be, trust me, disorder or not, some people just do not love themselves. Like they just have way less respect than they will ever know of themselves. Like you'll be so surprised, right? Make it a good practice to just look in the mirror, and as cliche as it might sound, just look in the mirror and be like, hey, you got it. You absolutely got it. And if anyone's going to be proud of you, it should be yourself. If you aren't proud of yourself, you're being a little too hard, dear. You are being a little too hard on yourself, But how do you keep promises to yourself? Sorry, how do you respect yourself? How do you love yourself? It really does start by letting yourself experience things that you would nonetheless not try to experience. Or if there's things that you don't do on a daily basis, whether it be you commit yourself to certain things so for example, I always use this idea of promising. So if you make a promise to yourself, like, tomorrow I'm going to go to the groceries, get a few things, and I'm going to try making chankonabe, which is a sumo wrestler's favorite dish that they like to eat. For example, something that's like new and out there, gives you some type of excitement. Not like, tomorrow I'm going to do 10 push-ups. Do something that makes you excited. Like, put something up there in the list where that you kind of want to do it, and it just gives you the tingles if you think about it. And then keep that promise. Go outside, and whatever you put on that list, mind you, don't start crazy, because if you start something too hard, you're not going to do it. Most likely, you're not going to go up and do it. So start with these small things that make you a little bit excited, and then do it. And you'll feel somewhat more accomplished day and day and day and day. How many sides do I have? I have 2. sorry, that's a stupid joke. Okay, that's what I always used to say that to the people that ask me, my friends. Sorry, anyway, so how many sides do I actually have? Let me give you like a good idea. So you have the high, the insanity, the overall, what you might think ruler, but is in fact maybe the person that really runs the train. But then you have the version of yourself where you're manically low, or the person that deals with your certain traumas and experiences. So you have the guardians. These two are kind of what I think. And in between, you have you. But now I'll give you something that really might pick your brains. What happens if you shatter? So what happens if me, for example, oh, smack. Just get shit out of me. Laurie, we talked about this, Laurie, didn't we? Laurie, didn't we talk about this? Me and Laurie had conversations about this. So what happens if I am healthy, the healthiest I've ever been? So is my disorders. Funny enough, yes. The more healthy I am, I learned to understand that my disorders, especially with bipolar and DID, I've learned to understand that they also become healthy. So meaning, yes, there might not be complete splits, but you still manage to somewhat find a way to split, and you find a way to go up and down. So ignore the idea of like, okay, I'm gonna try fixing my switch. No, it's learning to coexist with it, honey. It's learning to coexist and balance it out through your daily routines. And you have to understand it's a lifelong, almost to death, well, to death, experience that you are going to have to understand and accept and learn to take. So then what happens if, let's say, the core me is being shattered, whether that be through stress, whether that be through physical endurance, and obviously mental endurance, fatigue. So what happens then if the version of me starts shattering, just the core me, I'm not even talking about my lows and dips. What happens if the core me starts shattering and then I go into my manic highs as a shattered piece? Then your manic high also becomes a shattered piece, right? So then your shattered pieces, God knows how many there is, but you start shattering. So your kind of your split personalities will then split again. And I know this sounds really crazy, but there was a moment in time when Mito splitted off into 3 more characters during the last stages of my tour last year. And I remember it was being one of the most scariest and to this date, most haunting experiences I've ever had. It's kind of like I didn't know how many times I was switching. So my switches and cycles would happen about every 30 minutes. And I'll go here and I'll make my decision and I'll come back and I'll be talking differently, and then I'll walk back and I'll be like, oh, I remember that I was going to go buy this, and then come back, and I'll come back in the middle of it and I'll be like, where am I? So all I remember are fragments of steel cuts, if you think about it. So that's why, for example, ow. Say hi, Laurie. We were just talking about this. Laurie, do you have any split personalities? No, not that I'm aware of. And funny thing is, Laurie knows when I switch, so her demeanor changes too. It's pretty hard. So I realized if you're not physically and mentally good, for people that have DID, that can mean a big deal to your other identities as well, because not only is the present state the state that really does safeguard and hold the core you weakened, but I don't know if this is a thing that happens to only people that have DID and bipolar type 1, but I'm just speaking for myself personally. But I tend to realize that when I start splitting, when I'm at a very bad state, just my general state is bad, it becomes very dangerous. That's when Mito becomes dangerous, because Mito starts. Imagine you have a spawn of darkness, right? But then he spawns more darkness, and they're just like a version of him. So you have the 100%. That's why I bring up the idea of like Mito. You have the 100% core Mito. So he's made up of fury, rage, love is also a part of it, betrayal, and a lot of different emotions that muster up the experiences from trauma. Hence, it's why it's your guardian. But the only problem is they have a mind of their own, which is why you black out for the most part. So, but then what happens if Mito starts splitting? So then when are you ever going to return to your throne? And I call it the throne, meaning the seat of power. So who's at the front conscious core? So Mito, when he splits, you imagine what kind of split that would look like. It's very nasty, and it's something that I've never been so afraid of in my entire life when I saw that, because I don't remember most of it, but it was something that I've never ever. Well, since I've been through it, I was like, okay, I'm never ever going to ever get to a point like this, because of how dangerous and how scary this can be, because you're literally splitting your dark altar into another version of a dark altar, and that could only mean you're enhancing that character. And I remember we had a name for the character that was relatively dangerous for my splits. And I'm not going to mention the name of this character that Mido split into, but it was to the point where even Mido couldn't come out and save me from that character. Well, very came close to not being able to save me from that character in real life. But yes, maybe is this character part of the lore maybe in the future? Maybe, but it was, I think, one of the most scariest things I've ever seen in my life. And what I mean by scene is during that period of time, it was just hallucinations. And that hallucinations of that character was rather real, and Mido even became dormant to that character. Which means it must have been way more than what he could have handled. And to even see that, to even be in a position where even the character, the alter ego that knows how to take a lot of that trauma and turn it into something else, not even be able to come out into the sea, must have meant that character really, really had something very powerful. Luckily, however, there's something called an emergency kick where when everything starts shutting down, so all my traits and personality start shutting down, I have an emergency kick, and it's only ever happened twice. So it's kind of like a natural instinct for something inside of you to come out. It's like a survival instinct. So when you know you're in life-threatening scenario, it's like you summon your last ultimate fighter, I guess you can say. It's like your body and your mind and your consciousness going into a complete survival instinct mode. And I think during that time, that's when insanity came out. So insanity, and what I mean by insanity is I mean the true insanity. So that's the insanity that I black out in. And this is so imagine the extreme highs, that's the epitome of insanity. And your extreme lows, 100%. 얼굴 좀 해? 고마워. And imagine the extreme lows of your manics. So that's Mido. Alright? So that is Mido. So you could only sometimes be 60-50%. You could only have like some essence of insanity, but you'll never be completely that. I've been completely Mido a couple of times, but that's the times where you black out. You still glitch here and there. But there's only twice I've ever been the extreme version of insanity. There has ever been only 2 moments in my life. No, sorry, 3. Can't believe it. 3 moments in my life that I've ever been true insanity. And that's when you know shit hit the roof. Now, what's dangerous about being these extreme versions of either end? So, for example, insanity would have to only kick in that very moment when it's a life or death situation. And I think it's in those moments that I've learned to develop an understanding with a side of me that doesn't want to fall into a complete destructive self of who I am. And I think that's when insanity kicks in. And I think the version of that is that the hard thing about that is you're not going to be able to sleep. So your body is automatically, naturally shutting down. And that's not a really good thing, because if you go more than 4 to 5 days and you say you've been up for more than 4 days and you're further enhancing 3 more days to not sleep, your body will automatically shut down just because of health reasons. So that's the risk that you take on by bringing out a certain character that has to go overdrive with your mind, but it's worth taking the seat of power, because otherwise, shit went really bad. And just give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. the story and the inspiration behind the law. For further, so yeah, go watch So I Danced again. Go watch the whole law. I'm so excited to really show you guys what this whole series is going to be about and how it's really going to take shape and form. And once you guys realize that everything is all intertwined and connected, and it's all based on real situations, a real concept, you guys will get a big kick out of this. And trust me, like, we have so many people on board on our team that are non-stop working for this vision. And like I said, it's almost a 10-20 year ongoing plan, I think, project. 10 to say the most, because, you know, who knows where I'm going to be then, but 10 years, you know, give or take, you know, get them into the law, get them into this whole story. And it's as real as day, I can honestly say that. So yeah, my comments have stopped working. I think it's because it's time for me to go now, but I just want to say thank you guys so much. I'm super grateful. I can't believe we're already at the views that we are at with our videos. And, you know, guys, just keep spreading it. Keep enjoying it, more importantly, because I love to see the comments where people are, you know, have all these theories. And I love seeing your theories because honestly, half of them are on the right path. I'll say on the right path because there's so many things that we haven't discovered yet that I can't wait to unravel, but I'm gonna save that for another day. Just enjoy everything, every single thing we put out for you guys, because there's just so many people that work so hard for this on our team, and they are as passionate as ever because they just love seeing you guys get into it. And number two, we are gonna have so many things that are going to be coming out, related and not related to this, and we can't wait to further share that with our dreamers out there. So all in all, thank you so much for watching this live. I know it's a random time of the day. I know some people are gonna cuss at me because, like, I just kind of went on the most unexpected time of the day, and some people are at work right now. But I just wanted to say, if anyone wants to clip certain moments and certain things that I said about my disorders or in regards to the universe, and if someone could make a tight edit of that, I'll be more than happy to spread that around. But yeah, thank you guys, and I love you all so much. You are such a big part of the universe. By the way, the other side, the citizens there are called dreamers. Yep. So we based it off of you guys, and yeah. Again, welcome back, and yeah, on to the next. So I have to go back to editing now. Oh shit. Yeah, we are working on some new stuff, but super excited. And like I said, guys, spread it, enjoy it. We can't believe we're almost at the views that we are at. Love you guys to death. Our whole team loves you to death. And yeah, thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Our DPR talk, anyway. All right, peace.